Hello again, I'm Robert Heckler, the Program Director for 2020 Bay Area Council Fall Camp. It's another one of our training sessions that we're offering online to make the training, to meet the 28 NCAP requirement easier for you, more convenient. This session, we're going to go over camp emergency procedures. We're going to be looking at two different documents. We're going to be looking at a document from the Camp NCAP book, which is the camp emergency procedures, as well as the Camp Karankawa emergency procedures, looking at both of them for how to deal with emergencies at camp. Let me pull my screen up here to get the share thing happening. So first of all, we're going to take a look at the Camp Karankawa emergency procedures. Some of this stuff is not necessarily going to be a concern at camp, but you never know. A binder with additional details related to emergency procedures available at camp through the camp ranger or camp master at the time of check-in. The procedure in this manual are generally guidelines only. So what that's talking about is the NCAP book, the emergency procedures, which we're going to go over as well. These are just the general guidelines for camp. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to go over these first. So we're going to floods, because there's a high danger of water flooding in Camp Karankawa. Care should always be taken. What might seem like a small amount of rainfall on the camp might be just the fringe area of a very low downpour close by. Consequently, camping in low areas can be hazardous due to flash flooding. Therefore, in the event of very wet or turbulent weather, observe the following. We're always going to camp in the highest ground available, which our campsites mostly are. Secure all canoes, boats, equipment done, and then at the first sign of rapidly rising water, move to the highest ground possible if necessary. So for any unusual weather conditions, the camp ranger, camp master, or in this case, the camp director, will keep informed at all times. We'll keep paying attention if there's anything crazy going on with the weather. For television and the internet, current weather conditions, etc. All unit leaders will be informed immediately when any adverse conditions are expected. However, unit leaders should become thoroughly familiar with the terrain adjacent to campsites as to the best location for their scouts should the sighting of a tornado be reported. You'll hear the continuous horn blast is a way to point that out. Lightning. In the event of lightning, all aquatics activities will close and individuals should head for cover. That will be happening if there's any of that inclement weather. Trees and metal roof buildings should not be considered a safe overhead. The assembly area for camp is the HGC building. In light of COVID, everybody will be required to wear their mask, of course. Hurricanes and tropical storms, if something were to pop up while we're at camp, we'll monitor it closely, and camp would be closed if needed. In the event of a tornado, the following rules shall be followed during tornado warning or watch. Leaders of units will be notified by the camp ranger when a warning is in effect or a watch should be observed. Should a tornado be sighted, have all scouts evacuate the campsite and have them lie down in a depression, ditch, or ravine previously selected. If you have caught in open country, then always move at high right angles to the tornado's path. Do not attempt to gather in the main pavilion, dining hall, training lodge, Chief Rich Lodge, or Health Lodge. You will be much safer in an open ditch. Do not call the local weather station except to actually report a tornado, as you might be tying up important phone lines needed for an emergency. If you have a radio, keep it tuned into the local weather station and update your cell phone service to send text alerts specific to Camp Karankawa area. It is also advised that a unit or the leadership take the severe weather hazard line training through the MIDOT Scouting Training Program. That is required for weather hazards training to be completed by all staff, all adults at camp. So always refer to that training as well. In the event of a fire, no one used a camp fire guard plan, unit fire guard chart. More information about these documents may be found in the Guide to Safe Scouting. General rules for handling and reporting a fire. Or if you spot a fire and can put it out quickly and safely, do so. If the fire is out of control, either send a runner or go yourself to the leader's lodge or health lodge where the emergency alarm is located to have the alarm sounded. Give information, exact location of the fire to the camp ranger, the camp master, in our case, the camp director. Help might be solicited from adult unit leaders and older scouts if needed, and if can be done safely. Personal safety is paramount for anyone fighting a fire, so think before you act. The fire will be reported by the camp ranger or the camp master or camp administration to the West Columbia Fire Department for assistance via 911, of course. All units, upon sounding the fire alarm, will assemble at the camp's flag plaza area in front of the Health and Education Center to await further instructions. Individuals away from their campsite when alarm is sounded should immediately go to the camp's flagpole. They should not attempt to return to their campsites or join their units. Note, numbers for reporting fires to authorities are posted adjacent to all camp telephones and posted in the removable documents section of this manual. Know the location of all firefighting equipment in your campsite and ensure that this equipment is not used for any other purpose. Waterfront emergencies, 3-horn blast. We don't have any aquatics programs. In the event that someone decides to go down to the waterfront against instruction or so forth, the want to notify those emergencies quickly. First aid and medical emergencies. The health lodges are located across from the leader's lodge and in the front right side of the Health and Education Center. During a district or council event, an adult trained in first aid will be on duty to handle emergencies at all times. Otherwise, a camp ranger, camp master should be contacted for first aid assistance. During the day or night, all accidents and illnesses requiring first aid should be reported to the designated health officer at the health lodge or to the camp ranger or camp master on duty. All cases where a doctor's care is necessary will be reported immediately to camp ranger, camp master, or camp administration, regardless of the hour, and they will alert the Sweeney Hospital with the essential information related to injury, accident, or illness. The camp ranger, camp master will then immediately contact the camping director or scout executive in the case of a district or council activity. A staff advisor in charge with the responsibility to contact the camping director or scout executive. 911 if needed, to contact an ambulance, so forth. In the event of a missing person, there is a difference between a missing person and a lost scout. If an attempt to locate a scout is, scout's not where they need to be and all have failed, then we can determine a scout is missing. A camp ranger or administration is notified that a person is missing. Check with the other individuals within the unit or the last area of camp where the individual was last seen for possible leads, which we can also check the program area and find out if they're in the program area that they need to be in. We'll check the health lodge, sound the emergency alarm to assemble the unit to the campsite's flagpole area for accountability purposes. After 2 hours of searching, the camp ranger, master, and camp administration will notify local law enforcement authorities for assistance if necessary. The camp ranger, camp master, camp administration will immediately notify the council camping director or scout executive. Child abuse is a crime against the youth. Child abuse can involve the mental, physical, and sexual victimization of children. Immediate action is required. If you suspect that a child in the camp is a victim of child abuse, you must report to the camp ranger, camp master, administration. Appropriate telephone numbers are posted near phones all over camp. The camp ranger, camp master will contact the scout executive, report the situation, and protective services. Local law enforcement is necessary. Scout executive, in cooperation with Child Protective Services, will assume full responsibility for the situation. The only addendum to this that I would change is with the current YPT. This is slightly outdated in the sense that if this occurs, you have an obligation by state law as a mandatory reporter, and you are to contact law enforcement first. Foremost, and then the following contacts be followed up with the scout executive and camp directors and all those that need to know. But if the case, especially of a child abuse or any kind of sexual offense against children or anything like that, that requires law enforcement at that point, then you would certainly contact law enforcement first. So in the event of a fatality, secure the area, keeping safety of yourself and others in mind, then establish a perimeter around the deceased. Remove any non-witness youth and adults from the perimeter of the deceased. notify the camp ranger, camp master, administration. The camp ranger, camp administration, camp director, or scout executive must immediately notify local authorities, police and corporal upon arrival to the camp institute an inquiry and investigation to determine the cause of death, practice that occurred prior to the cause of death, and anything else relating to an investigation. If you are the reporting individual to the authorities, the next step is to contact the council scout executive through the camp ranger or the other council administration. Obtain as many facts and statements of all the witnesses on hand. In general, the preliminary question to ask is the when, where, what, how, and the environment and conditions. Absolutely do not notify the family, the next of kin, the news media, or any other inquiring entity. The scout executive will make arrangement through the proper channels and proceed to personally notify the family of the deceased, or law enforcement will take care of that. Scout executive will be the only spokesman for the council related to the news media or any other inquiring entity. So that is the general guidelines for Camp Karankawa, the general rules for camp, which again are guidelines. Wanted to go over those, that way everybody's familiar with what the camp book said or what the camp rules were. And then for camp, specifically for our camp, for fall camp, we go into the camp emergency procedures, which we're going to go a little bit more in depth with these because these are the ones that we will practice mostly. These are ones that will be implemented for the camp. The camp has emergency phone numbers posted near all telephones, FM radio communication throughout the camp. A written agreement with local rescue squad, hospital, and local physician. If you have any questions on emergency procedures, please ask. During an emergency, your responsibility is to your troop. And that is geared more toward the unit leaders for sure. If you are a camp director of any sort, an area director, camp director, then you will do what you need to do to police your area and your track and to assist the camp in any way you can in case of emergency. When you hear the camp alarm, you must immediately assemble your troop at the parade field next to the main pavilion. Take a head count and have your senior patrol leader report your attendance to the staff member in charge and await further instructions. If for whatever reason the parade field is unsafe, the staff will direct people to the main parking lot as a secondary assembly area. Leaders need to make scouts aware that emergency vehicles may be traveling the road as well. Stay on the parade field until all clear is given. The camp alarm is the bell, continuous ringing of the bell. What follows are instructions you should carry out if you have an accident within your own troop, somewhere in camp or on the trail. Every person must report to the parade field when the alarm is sounded, drill or no drill. In accordance with National BSA camp policy, an emergency drill will be conducted each week at camp. For planning purposes, leaders will be given information as to when this drill is scheduled. Please keep drill time confidential. Whenever a serious storm approaches, everyone in camp should move into the nearest designated shelter. The primary shelter at Camp K is the Health and Education Center. Again, with COVID, everybody will be required to wear a mask while inside of the building. And we will also be using the dining facility, the old dining facility, as a meeting area as well to help with social distancing purposes. Personal accident, you're going to give immediate first aid, report the accident to the health lodge, preferably with that scout if possible, so they can look at them. If not, let them know so the medic can go make scene. The camp office or nearest staff member with a radio, the health officer will administer medical care and or make contacts for assistance. Lost swimmer, we'll worry about that because we don't have any aquatics at camp. Lost person, report situation to camp office at once, including as much information as possible. Camp director and the ranger will provide directions, which will mostly fall most in line with the camp policies that we received, the Camp K rules that we reviewed earlier in the presentation. So the fire, in case of a fire, evacuate the troop to the parade field, immediately report the location of the fire to the camp director, the ranger, or nearest staff member with a radio. Check your fire guard chart provided at your campsite for further details. And then flood or thunder and lightning will provide director and operations, will direct operations. Senior staff will direct units. Evacuations will follow as directed by local authorities if required. The emergency hurricane plan, same as what camp is. Then approaching hurricane within 300 miles ahead of camp's general direction, the camp will be closed. All attendees will be contacted regarding the closure of camp, and camp will follow the direction of the ranger. If something happens and something just randomly springs up in the Gulf and it's suspected to hit our area while camp is happening, then we will make whatever necessary decisions to be safe at camp. In the event of an intruder or a disruptive adult, contact the director and staff advisor immediately via phone, radio, or runner. Do not lose visual sight of the person. If possible, have 2 adults stand with the adult. Take a photo of the person. If you can safely, don't go putting your phone in somebody's face and making them uncomfortable. Not put any youth at risk. Remove the youth from the area of the person as quickly as possible. Direct and staff advisor to immediately go to the intruder or disrupt adult to assess situations. Never is the intruder approached one-on-one for safety. Always approach with 2 directors. If situation escalates, place the police department for immediate assistance, which is the Brazoria County Sheriff's Office. The directors keep youth and adult in a safe area, and no time do you put your personal safety at risk. If the situation needs immediate assistance, call the police and only approach when they are present. In the event of a severe situation, evacuate all youth immediately away from the situation, following the standard fire evacuation plan. Medic to report the emergency or communicable disease emergency plan. Dial 911 and request an ambulance, and Brazoria County Health Control Department provide the following information. Procedures for anything with communicable diseases. Only trained personnel should provide first aid. Move the victims immediately to an isolated area. Health lodge should be used as quarantine. All people who come in contact and or assisted are quarantined. Remove program areas from the area around the health lodge immediately. Set a perimeter around quarantine area. Control access and exit to the scene immediately, and no other camper or personal leaves camp property. Close off the gates and allow no access of outside visitors onto camp property except for a response team. Everyone in quarantine is to take the Brazoria County Health Department's universal precautions, gloves and face masks to prevent contact with bodily fluids and exposure to bloodborne or airborne pathogens. Meet the ambulance and health authorities at nearest entrance or emergency access point. Direct them to the victims. Follow all orders of authorities. Train personnel via phone. Once authorities arrive on site, follow orders and assist with cooperation. Scout executive is be contacted immediately after call. This is going to briefly finish this up. This is going to be more of the anything not related to COVID. We have our own COVID policy on the way we will deal with anything relating to COVID. And we're going to go over that in a separate presentation. So this is the emergency procedures. Make sure that at all times we adhere to these properly. Youth protection is maintained. Personal safety of the scouts and yourself is paramount, number one, most important at all time. So always keep that in mind while implementing emergency procedures. And that's a reason why they exist, is to keep everybody safe. All right, we will see you in the, stop sharing here. We'll see you in the next presentation. Thank you.